Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Scooter Pod. I'm your host, Bobby Howard. With me today, we've got Jamison, Maxwell, Ty Lee, and hopping on the Scooter Pod portion of this thing, we have Boatin Blake, the captain, ahead of this OUTC basketball game. But we're not here to talk about basketball just yet. We're going to get weird with it, folks. We're going to break out something that I'm excited about doing. We're gonna rank some mascots. We're going to rank a lot of things this offseason because we're bored, and that's cheap, easy, nice material. And I, for one, am here for it. So let me kind of run it down what we're going to do. We're going to do this in a bit of a tier system where we rank the best ones, the ones that are just kind of mediocre, some of the scary ones, the ones that kind of give you nightmare fuel, that sort of thing. Maybe has a felony. You never know. That type of mascot. We all know the one. We all know there's one in particular we're all thinking about. But we're gonna do that. So there's an element of best to worst. You'll see how it works as we get it on. But Jamison, how are you feeling about this concept? Are you already regretting agreeing to be a part of this show?
Everyone's like, I want to hear Jeff Levy speculation to Alabama and who our new offensive coordinator targets are. No, I'm not going down that rabbit hole yet. That is just, that's off-season content, but I don't know if I want to go far deep into that. So let's talk mascots.
Yeah, let's get weird with it. Yeah. Blake, how are you doing? On everything? You excited about OU Frogs tonight?
Oh, so pumped for OU Frogs. I feel like this is a game we always lose. It's always close. That's why I stayed away from the spread. Wasn't touching that bad boy because I know even the years where TCU had a good team, OU bad, they've always played us close, especially in Fort Worth for some reason. So it's going to be a fantastic game. I'm excited for it. I've been on the OU bandwagon saying they're better than their record indicates. I will not get off that bandwagon regardless of how many games they continue to lose.
And how many times we tell you they're just going to blow it at the end. But Ty, you and I actually started talking about mascots way back before you had officially joined the Schooner Pod as as a co-host. Are you excited about this one?
I am. Mascot content is always fun content. So I am excited to be recording this one here tonight with you guys. Snowed in and recording this one, so excited.
Oh yeah, it's a snowy evening talking mascots. So let's get on to it. Here's our layup. Here's our setup. All of the tiers. We have elite, the best of the best. Some of the best in college football, college sports. That type of elite. And we have solid, kind of good ones, but aren't quite on that tier. You're not going to see them in a Quicken commercial or anything. They're just kind of there. Then you have boring animal costumes. You all know the ones. It's just like, okay, fine, it's an animal. And then we have Nightmare Fuel, which the truly horrifying ones, the ones that pretty much live in that uncanny valley category. There are a few on there. You have Meh, which are just not really a lot to say on that. And then we have a crappy version of a live mascot, which I think as OU fans we kind of know what we're going to put there. So just to demonstrate how this is going to go. Let's start out with OU's own costume mascot, Boomer and Sooner. I think this is a textbook crappy version of a live mascot.
No doubt about it.
Yeah,
There's
this is
no doubt.
Easy one. Come out with consensus.
If you are talking about Boomer and Sooner as our live mascot, because obviously there's going to be some discussion here, like who do I consider like the live mascot or like the non-live mascot? Like I see on this ranking right now, you've got Texas Tech's live mascot instead of their cartoon, goofy-looking cowboy guy. Like
he's there too.
There's both. There's both.
Yeah,
so I guess
both.
I can play both sides here. So yeah, Boomer and Sooner in their costumes, no doubt about it. Throw that on the list first, that crappy version of a live mascot.
Yeah.
I guess
Ty, you got it.
I was going to say we're going football centric, no secondary mascots like Top Dog.
Oh, Top Dog's there. He's hanging out next to Pistol Pete.
There's so many rules to this.
He's
I have no
okay.
idea.
There are no rules. We're just ranking the mascots.
But no, I agree. Costume, Boomer and Sooner, not good.
So they started off way worse. When they were debuted in 2005, they were known as the Horse Pigs. They were awful. Now they're passable, but they're still the crappy version of a live mascot. So that not great, not ideal. Let's move on with a bit of a more interesting one here. What do we think about the Jayhawk, Big J, over here? Kansas's mascot, obviously more prominent in basketball. He does have a counterpart in Little J, the little half one, but considering they're literally the same mascot but one small, we're not going to consider that to be a separate mascot.
Ooh,
Blake,
I was excited about Little J.
Little J, yeah, I don't know if Little J would be. He probably might just be in the solid category, but does the normal size version of the Jayhawk fit? What are we feeling here?
I think I don't know what I want to do because I think this is a good between solid and elite contender. I love the weird niche mascots of college football, college basketball, just college sports in general, and the Jayhawk kind of fits that. And like when I think about mascots and other things, like I probably bring in more like Ty, like I bring in a little bit of like I like their logos as we've seen this year featured on the weekend spread, the weird derpy Jayhawk. I just think the Jayhawk as a mascot, as a logo, just as a branding thing is super unique. I think because I just don't want to be putting elite ones right off the board, but I'm gonna go this one tiers towards elite just because of how unique the history behind it. I think it's incredible. It's great branding on their part.
I think he trends pretty high. I definitely don't think he's a boring animal costume for sure. Jamison?
Yeah, well,
no,
Ty, you got it.
He's awesome. It's awesome. It's the Jayhawk, and you don't even have Lil J on there. That's elite to me.
Ty?
yeah. So I mean, to get technical, the Jayhawk, as it is not a real animal, it is I guess would technically be a cryptid, is what they call it, I believe. So exempt from boring animal costume category, as it is not, in fact, a real animal. But yeah, I wouldn't have him there. Anyways, the branding, I mean, the colors, just going with the hard hitting, just the primary colors right off the bat. Great brand recognition, executed really well for a costumed mascot. I think I really don't know if they could do anything better. So yeah, elite feels hard, but then just looking at everything else that we have to put it against, I think I would not be opposed if everyone else said it should go into the elite category, but it is certainly well, you know what? If solid is the other option, then yeah, my vote is elite for sure.
I say we go elite for now, and if we're looking at it and we think he might be more of a solid, we can bump him down. But for now, we're putting the Jayhawk in elite. So cool. Let's move on to another one. Kind of mentioned him earlier, Jamison. Raider Red, this little costumed Yosemite Sam man. How are we feeling about him?
You know what? I'm going to love him way more than the average person because it's just something different. You know, I like the costume version. You know, all the goofy looking mascots that you don't really take too seriously. I've always been, inclined to like them. Obviously everyone loves Gritty whenever you're looking at NHL mascots. The Phillies mascot. I've always liked goofy mascots. I'm going to put Texas Tech, him at a solid, Raider Red at a solid.
I don't know if he's solid because he's literally just Yosemite Sam. So to me, it feels like a big copyright infringement.
And a worse version. I love the proportions of Yosemite Sam, how small he is with the giant guns. Like, that is funny. Like, this is just a normal size, like, Yosemite Sam. It's worse than the thing that they're trying to rip off.
I hear what Jamison is saying, but I have to agree with Bobby and Blake here. It's so unoriginal. It's if you said like, oh yeah, the Red Raiders, a lot of I don't really even know if there's a ton of brand recognition there across the nation. Because if you go up to like New York City and you're like, yeah, you guys know the Red Raider mascot, they're gonna think you're talking about some random community college in New Jersey that was featured as like a weird side quest location in an episode of The Sopranos. So yeah, I can't go with. I will say, and this is going to come up again later, I think this is the better one of the two of Tech's mascots. I agree with Jamison on that one, but I think it's meh.
He doesn't even have the long mustache. It's a different one. Y'all are just stereotyping him into thinking. You guys are assuming he's Yosemite Sam. Oh no. I don't want to put out assumptions on the podcast. We don't know that. He doesn't have the long mustache. It's a little bit different. Don't throw him into these categories. He's a cartoon goofy looking raider.
That is a pretty long looking mustache, though. I don't know.
Not like Yosemite Sam. Yosemite Sam's about to touch the ground. That looks like just that looks a long length. Like I guess width. I don't even know what you consider with this. Like it's long outwards, but it's not down. It's not going down
that's right.
as a mustache.
It doesn't.
That's completely separate. It's completely different.
He still sucks. I think we're moving him into meh.
Yeah, just like everything at Tech, it feels very right. The first person in the meh category is Texas Tech. That feels about right. That feels natural. That feels.
Well, then let's bring TCU's Horned Frog up then, Bobby.
Shall we? Should we just go straight to the frog, the Super Frog here?
Oh, yes. Give me Super Frog.
All right. So now we're discussing Super Frog here. What are we feeling about Super Frog? I kind of think he's meh. I'm not gonna lie.
I do too. Sorry.
I'm kind of mad that Bobby's not bringing in any of our cool unofficial ones, some of our original ones. He's only bringing one into the equation, where with OU, he's bringing anybody and everybody and their mother when it comes to every OU mascot of all time. He's forgetting one of them. We don't talk about that one.
You should have kept him around.
I think because we had cool versions of the Horned Frog, like Kaiju Frog, and like other nightmare versions. The one that looked like the creatures from Land of the Lost.
We're using ones that are. These are currently in use mascots. Is the criteria. Otherwise, UCF would have like 17.
I know, but see, that's what I like. I like to bring in like the mascot history, the evolution of it, because there is that's what college is built about, is like the evolution of things over time. I do agree. I don't like the design of it now. I will make a case. Boring animal costumes. I think if they would have done a real life Horned Frog and just made it bigger, that would have made it a lot cooler. So I'm gonna go
no such thing. It's not even possible to do a real life Horned Frog. So I don't even think you can put him into a boring animal costume. I think he has to be.
They still exist.
It would be funny to just have a
horn of danger, but they still exist.
A horned lizard. That's true.
Lizard. It is a lizard, so it is not a horned frog. So put it into meh, and I'm going to stand on this one. Stand strong.
Boring animal costume.
I think he's meh because he doesn't even really look like he doesn't really look like the actual frog. I mean, not only that, he's a super frog. So,
why didn't we put Hypnotoad in here at least? That would have been a good one.
Well, that's not even a real logo. You don't own the rights to Hypnotoad.
That's a logo. That's not a mascot.
We don't own the rights to fly. We don't. Yes, it was. It was definitely our mascot this year.
That's a logo.
What?
Hypnotoad
is more of a mascot than a logo.
He was just an idol. He was not a mascot or a logo. He was an idol. Simple as
false idol Hypnotoad. Oh God, I think we're gonna take him. Let's take him to boring animal
Ty, what
costume.
do you? No. What is Ty think?
Wait, Ty, what do you think? What do you think?
You said meh, and I said meh, and he said boring animal costume. So
I really think the Horned Frog, although I think it fits, is starting to lead me to believe that we have some suboptimal categories, honestly, because I don't I feel like we need one that's just bad. The Horned Frog is not bad. The Horned Frog is okay. So I guess it's meh. It's not a crappy version of a live mascot. It's not elite. I almost feel I'm torn because I think had Blake given a more impassioned speech, I could have been swayed to believe it's solid because it's very unique, very recognizable, and I think it's executed pretty well for what it is and what it's intended to be if I'm just looking at the design and execution of the mascot. So I could go solid on this one, but I don't feel super strongly either way. So because you guys so firmly believe it's meh and Blake was unable to field any sort of competent defense, he just resorted to, well, if we did this this one that doesn't even exist in physical form, therefore it's not a mascot and isn't canon to the school, that would have been cooler. So yeah, meh.
I think arguably Blake made a point against Super Frog because he named a whole bunch of things that are way cooler than Super Frog.
No, I think it's definitely it feels like whenever the Pelicans redid the Pelican type thing, the original Scary Pelican was cool because it's weird and scary, just like the original iterations of the Horned Frog. but they made a more like child-friendly version so it wouldn't scare people away. Which
So,
I understand, but I enjoy the scarier versions.
So you're talking about evolution of an animal, quote unquote animal, but evolution therefore should become a better version of themselves. That is evolution. The whole point is they adapt to what's wrong right there in their environment and they get better from it. And that's not what's happening. So it's not an evolution because they're not an animal. So I think it is meh.
I think it's
So
bad.
is the TCU horned frog an idiocracy frog? Are you saying there's some sort of frog devolution into just a worse, dumber version of the mascot?
Yes.
a more
that's
corporate, crappy
why that
edition.
horned lizard is almost extinct because it's not evolving. It is getting worse. And then all of the predators will take it down.
Well, I think we have a consensus. Well, not a consensus, but an agreement that Super Frog is going to be meh, hanging out right next to Raider Red over there.
I'm so sorry I had to put Raider Red right next to your Super Frog, Blake, but I'll let you take your pick of what you want to go after next.
Yeah, Blake.
In the spirit of rivals, let's do Baylor. I think this is just an easy consensus.
This feels like a textbook. Go ahead.
Crappy version of a live mascot. This is the definition of a.
Well, yeah. If they had two live bears,
the two live bears on campus are so much cooler than the stuffed versions. Let me give you even more fuel to this, Blake. Marigold, I think like the extra one that they added as of recently, this just makes me feel like I'm at Disney World and Mickey and Minnie Mouse are coming out. And I'm like, this is just I don't like it. It's just all this Disney influence and with Waco added in. I'm just not, I just think I wish there was a lesser category than crappy.
So here's what I think this is a textbook boring animal costume because they're not technically Lady and Joy, the live bears that they have on campus. They are what I think it's Bruiser and something else.
Bruiser and Marigold.
Yeah, no, they're just crappy bears. They're not.
It
even...
just makes me
no,
feel like
but it's kind of representing
Mickey and Minnie Mouse.
I don't know. Yeah. When I look into crappy versions of live mascots, I'm thinking you're doing the identical thing of the version that you've created.
I think the live mascot has to go onto the field or be like present at the game itself.
I think the Baylor Bear was present at one point, wasn't it, on the field?
Maybe.
Like way back in the day?
It is still very much a live mascot.
Okay, I will say that Baylor Bear would be elite, the real live one, because they used to throw it Dr. Pepper and it would drink. It would drink the Dr. Pepper on the sidelines, which sounds pretty awful now that I think about it, but also that's kind of an elite thing to do.
That's unbelievably Texas. I think it is important to note that these categories aren't necessarily in order of precedence. It's just sort of what is the best fit. Obviously, elite, solid, meh. Nightmare fuel, I arguably should be below meh, but boring animal costume and crappy version of live mascot. I like the debate that we've had on this one because I think that the Baylor ones, as we've established, are not direct representations of the existing live mascots, whether those are or are not acknowledged as live mascots by this podcast. I guess we're still debating that, but I believe that they are, like Blake said, just boring animal costumes. I personally, I cannot fit them into the crappy version of a live mascot category because, as we've established, they're not one-to-one. They're not even intended to be those. I guess, I mean, obviously they're representative of a bear, but yeah, I don't know.
Like we kind of jumped all over this when you were making your opening case. What do you have any more thoughts on this?
No, I just thought this is because some of these animal mascots will fall into boring animal costumes because they don't have said animal on campus. This one, they have two bears on campus. They have two bear mascots that they use. It's like the crappiest version of a live mascot that you could think of. I know they don't have the same names, but I think I'm assuming Bevo. The Bevo mascot's named Bevo. The plushy one.
He's named Hookem, I believe.
See, you know what he's trying to represent there.
That's fair.
You know what they're trying to get at there. Whereas, I don't think, K-State has a Wildcat on campus. He's not or that's probably going to get into a different level. But yes, like I think because they have 2 bears, then they have 2 live bears on campus. It feels very much like they're just trying to replicate what was there.
I think we'll grant you that. I think you have a good point there. All right, so we're gonna put them in crappy version of live mascot. Cool. So Ty, let's let you pick one. Which mascot shall we dive into next?
Let's do. I have one that I think should have some spirited debate. Let's do the cyclone that is also a bird with teeth, but not Louisville.
Teeth, but not
the
bird with teeth. That's not Louisville. His name is Cy the Cyclone. He's just kind of there.
Except he's not a cyclone. He is a bird.
He's not. Yeah, it's a
new category, aka irrelevant. That's what I want for him. Absolutely irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, he doesn't even deserve to be in meh. It's like below meh.
I think boring animal costumes
Yeah.
is. So here's my stance, right? Let me spill my stance and then I'll let you guys take it. I think he is a better fit for boring because I feel like meh is neutral. Meh is very, it could go either way. You know, you could make an argument. It's okay. It's just nothing special for meh. Whereas boring animal costume or just boring costume is, I feel like it's inherently negative.
Yeah.
If you're saying that it's boring, it's below meh. So I think it's just boring. I mean, whatever. Is it bad because it doesn't make any sense? Why isn't it like a Cyclone mascot? I'm sure there's some Iowa State fan listening that's infuriated that we don't know the history of their mascot. But good. I think it's boring, honestly. And this is not a bit about Iowa State. There are redeemable things about Iowa State and their branding specifically. But I think that Cy the Cyclone, the cardinal with teeth, I assume it's a cardinal with teeth. That
it is officially a cardinal. It is.
Yeah,
officially.
He looks like he's just wearing like a rebranded LSU jersey.
Please let me tell you the
colored red.
So the first version of Cy was released in, I believe, the 1950s, and he was an 8-foot tall, bulging chest made from chicken wire and aluminum.
Oh my god!
Now that sounds like a cyclone.
Robo.
Oh my god! Okay, I gotta change the screen to show you all this. I think I have the picture that Jamison's talking about here. It's immaculate. It's really good. Look at this guy. Look at it. Look at it. Look at him. Now that would be elite. That is an elite mascot.
Oh my god! Why did people just stick with the OGs? Like, you don't need
Why
them
did
to
they
be
get rid of that?
perfect. Like, that is
so
the perfect
great.
Mascot.
Could you imagine that guy just wandering around?
Look at the legs. Look at
anything.
the feather detail on the legs.
Oh
I just imagine this guy having to take off this costume and just like his whole skin just scratches off because of all of the chicken wire and aluminum under it.
You imagine wearing this in like September, where it's just like 95 degrees. You're just sweating under the chicken wire. Can't see anything. Oh, that's awful.
I love that. Yeah.
Now that version
That would
of
be
Cy
elite. That's elite.
That would be elite. That would be very elite. But as we have once again learned, just stick with the cool ones. So let's just move into boring and move on, I think. So let's do a live one here. And I'm gonna go with the Mountaineer. How are we feeling about him?
Absolutely elite. Came back from DUI. He said, that ain't going to put me down. I'm back, and returned. He got a DUI and they let him come back and be the mascot. That he went through adversity. I mean, this man went through everything, and now he's one of the most well-known mascots.
That is not going through adversity. It's,
it's pretty self-conscious.
That's what all the Tiger Woods fans think out there, though.
Yeah, I don't want to venture too far into making light of something like that, but that is the opposite of going through adversity. No, I know.
No, do not drink and drive. I was being extremely satirical.
I would also be. I'm also kind of surprised that getting a DUI is not a prerequisite for being the Mountaineer. But no, yeah, he's elite.
He
I think
went
he's
back
elite.
and drank too many Coors Lights in the mascot room after the game in that one commercial with the dude with the cooler, and that's what happened. It's not his fault. He probably got given beer to him in the
Little
mascot
moonshine
room. It's not
action.
his
Yeah.
fault. It's not his fault. You know that commercial I'm talking about, where it's like the really sad looking bird mascot comes into the room. Yes, it's exactly what happened to him. It's not his fault.
The guy looks like the undercover cop from that one episode of Breaking Bad with Better Call Saul.
Honestly,
it's like
yes.
Kind of like that. That might actually be the same actor. I don't know.
Also, a fun story about the Mountaineer. The Mountaineer now has to keep the gun at the school because in 2012, one of the Mountaineers took the gun out and shot a black bear out of a tree with it. So they are now not allowed to take the rifle away from school property, so they don't go hunting with it.
That's pretty elite.
He needs his own category. That is so badass.
I think he's met overall, but
yeah,
I think he's solid. I think he's at least solid.
I think he's elite.
He's elite. Everyone knows him as extremely, I think he's very, very well known as a mascot. People know that West Virginia has like a real person with a coon hat on the sidelines. Like people know that.
And I also think it's really cool when mascots like really fit like kind of like the school culture and the state very well. Like I just really do enjoy like that aspect of it, and I just feel like the Mountaineer is like perfect for that school.
It's like a perfect 1-to-1. And
that
I think they do have that rare thing where because it's an actual person, they can like talk and stuff. They you don't have any element of Uncanny Valley. They're just a dude dressed up as Mountaineer. I think that's a plus. So I'm putting him in elite, I think. So
that's where we're gonna elite. Bobby's going Monarch style. It's like, I'm gonna say elite. I'm gonna drag him up there. I will move over to elite.
Okay, so we can keep. I guess he's solid. If you went solid,
I voted.
I like elite. I'll go elite. I'll pick elite.
We had 2 votes for elite. So the elite category, we have the Jayhawk, the Mountaineer. That's pretty good. It's a pretty good elite tier so far. Jamison, you pick our next one.
Let's talk about one who looks exactly like a human, but is just absolute dog poop. And that's Willie, the Wildcat, with just a boring little hat on. That's all he's got. It's just but honestly, it could be just the basic football player. You're walking out there and he just put on this weird looking beady-eyed K-State mascot head. And it's just horrible. It's not even nightmare fuel. It's not crappy version of a live mascot. It's even worse than boring. Like, where is the worst category here? I think we have to put boring, but I don't know what else to do. It's not nightmare fuel because it's just essentially a human with a hat on.
I think he's a little weird. The human arms are just super weird to me because really, if you think about most mascots, they're wearing a little, they're wearing a football uniform and everything. But usually they're wearing sleeves underneath. Why does the Wildcat have human arms? He's a Wildcat. You don't need to keep the human arms. Imagine I don't know, Super Frog with human arms, or I don't know, Psy with human arms. That's creepy. That's weird. I don't like that you can see the arms. I think that's kind of nightmare fuelish.
I'm with Bobby. Jameson was going in on how it's just boring. I think if anything, it's not boring. It's at least intriguing. What the hell is going on here? Who made this idea? Who thought that we shouldn't buy the bottom half of the costume? And he kind of looks like that Street Fighter character that has the leopard's head in the human's body. It freaks me out. It's a little weird. I don't really know his backstory. I take that more into nightmare fuel because I'm not saying that's boring. It raises more questions than presents answers. So I'm going to go nightmare fuel. I feel like that better characterizes it than just boring or meh.
It does raise a lot of questions. Ty?
It's absolute poverty tier. That's not even.
Yes, thank you. That's what it is. We need to make this form editable and add poverty.
It's just not even. It's because it's not scary to me. I don't think. Like, yeah, you can make it sound scary if you get into like the lore of the wildcat headed man in a punter's outfit or something. But it's just, I don't know. It's weird. I think it's I guess maybe I can kind of understand what they were trying to do, but when I think nightmare fuel, I think of like some iterations of like Purdue Pete. Or things like
There is
that.
there's a perfect
college
nightmare
mascots.
fuel on this one. There's a
There
perfect
is.
one, and it's not Willie.
Yeah, but it's Bevo, but when you cook him well done. But yeah, I guess nightmare fuel is our worst category. So
It's a different category
I
for
have
sure.
to
But
vote
I will.
for him for that. But
Look,
I
I'll
think
say
it's
this.
just objectively bad.
I'll say this, just really thinking about it though. Like Blake, so you were at the Big 12 championship, obviously. So I'm sure at some point you got to see the little KSU Wildcats thing he does. His weird little dance where he does this stuff.
Yes, it's
That's
just
not
it's
intimidating.
weird. It's not intimidating, but Nightmare Fuel doesn't have to be intimidating. It could just be so like out there that you're just like, what the heck is going on? Like that's what I get. Like most mascots aren't gonna scare me. Like they're usually in well lit atmospheres. But if I was walked into an alley and a man with a wildcat head and a human body like came around the corner, I'd be a little freaked out. I'd be a little weirded out, and I feel like that's a little bit of nightmare fuel. So I think that's probably the best category. It suits him. It suits him nicely, just because it's weird. It's weird, and like I just don't think that's like it can't be classified as boring.
Just like staring at you with those weird dead eyes. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's trippy. It's tricky.
He's not
We're
boring.
basically
He's not
split.
boring. I agree.
not
I would say
boring.
he's not as much boring. I think Ty's ranking of poverty is the most accurate. But if we're playing the rules of the game, I think Nightmare Fuel is there. Do not say no. We're not going to do double because I
I'm
want to
looking
keep
him
Nightmare
up.
Fuel for one mascot and one mascot only, and that mascot deserves every single bit of that category. But
Okay,
I think you can throw Willie into it. Oh no, we're doing another one. Yes,
Add a row
give me
below.
one.
Hold on.
Poverty.
Let's fix it. So we have the poverty tier. So I guess let's just put Willie in the poverty tier.
Yes,
there he goes.
I completely agree. Great job, Ty. That was perfect.
He looks okay. So let's go ahead and get our nightmare fuel one out of the way then, because now the screen is at a weird level. So we have a row. Top Dog's hanging out down here. So do we want to just go ahead and do Top Dog? I hate to.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it. You guys aren't ready for this discussion, but
Here's my take. I think he's elite.
No, Bobby, stop. I know because he went away for a long time, you think that he's elite, but like nobody outside of probably even the state of Oklahoma recognizes who Top Dog is. Nobody was really, besides Oklahoma fans, on the like boat to bring him back. There's just no way you can put him at solid, but you can't put him at elite if nobody recognizes him as OU's mascot.
Okay, that's fair. What do y'all think?
Here's my thing with this, Bobby. I think Top Dog's fun. Obviously, we all like dogs and everything, but I think there's a lot of casual Oklahoma fans, that still watch all the games on Saturdays of football, and they would not know that Top Dog is a mascot. That is just not elite in my brain. Also, if you go on to all of the fanatics and bookstore sites, look at the OU Jordan gear. What is the lowest price on almost every single Jordan gear? It's the Top Dog shirts. People did not buy the OU Jordan Top Dog shirts. It was an absolute fluke. Honestly, you could argue meh. But just because I know the history of it a little bit more, I think it's solid. But I don't think it's anywhere close to elite. It's low end solid.
That's fair. I think we can go to a meh. Ty, what do you think?
Top Dog is poverty tier.
Okay,
no.
let's go to man then.
No.
Okay, current Top Dog, because it's different than the original Top Dog. So here's my argument, right? Top Dog is a basketball only mascot, so already the ceiling is meh because it's a meh sport. College basketball, meh. So, is he the top of his possible ceiling? Is he the top of his possible ceiling? I would argue. No, not at all. We have mascots. He doesn't even have the mascot power to maintain like sole like dominion over his sport. You go to the games, Boomer and Sooner are still there. The ones in the costumes. Like he can't even he cannot, I don't think he can in good conscience be rated above Boomer and Sooner. Obviously they're in a unique category, but Top Dog has his one sport that's just his, and he still doesn't get to have that alone. He's still not even the main mascot at those. It's still Boomer and Sooner. So I don't, wherever you guys want to put it, I just wanted to give my spill. I guess I will vote no contest on this one, or I will abstain.
No,
but I
still,
didn't.
I think
you made a really good take.
He used to be solid, and now he's borderline boring, poverty. And I think you can put him in the middle. I think you can put him at meh, or you can put him at solid.
Meh.
But I think
he's not
honestly
boring. He is not boring. Yeah, I will say that
meh.
in his defense, he is not boring, because no one is bored by something that they don't understand or that's new, you know, because like you said, he has like no brand recognition. So people are like, what is that? Why is there
What's this
a
random dog doing here
at the
Yeah.
OU games? Yeah.
What
so
the
no one is
dog
bored
doing?
by him. Yeah. Cause people either love him, they're not bored with him, or they're like, what the dog doing? And they're trying to figure it out. So
fair enough. All right. Blake, I think you're up next. Or wait, I can't remember the order. We are in a really weird order here. Blake, who do you got here next?
I want to see, I think this one is interesting. The BYU Cougar.
Okay.
And I'm going to put it, which is very rare for me to ever give a compliment about Brigham Young University. I think he's solid. I think the mascot as a whole is kind of boring, kind of meh, maybe crappy version of Fly mascot type, but he does all the cool dances, the tricks. Like, there's always a video going viral of this mascot doing something really, really cool that I can't put at the elite level yet, just because, like, I feel like a Cougar's a very boring mascot, but the performances this guy puts on, I feel like it's similar to, like, the Denver Nuggets mascot, Milwaukee Bucks, some of those, like, ones. Their performances themselves outweigh the fact that it's kind of a boring mascot in the first place.
Amen. Second that. 100%. I don't even need to speak on this category. Blake hit it out of the park.
Yeah. Blake's 100% right, because on the surface, you know, boring animal mascot, but like you said, what he does, super cool, makes him a contender for, you know, one of the better mascots. I think he's a solid, just because he, you know, he's just a boring. Cougars are probably the most boring mascot you can find. We have like 8 of them in the Big 12 now. But I think he's a solid. He's okay.
Yeah. He gets the most out of his frame.
Agreed. Ty?
He's certainly the best of the cats, hands down. And I think you guys talked a lot about the performance aspect, which is a big aspect, I believe, in mascots. I mean, that's the difference between 80s Top Dog and then current Top Dog. For example, if people don't know, you know, back in the day, original Top Dog was like doing dunks and all sorts of crazy, doing the stuff that, you know, Cougar's doing, but in a basketball setting, and then some more. But yeah, the mascot itself, we haven't really touched on that. I think it's just very, you know, if you look at it, obviously, you know, all big cats are the same. But if you don't know what that is and you just look at it, zero recognition of anything. You're like, what? I don't know what that is at all. It's got some eyebrows, that's for sure. But yeah, I think solid is a good one, because I mean, at the end of the day, you know, these mascots that are just someone in like a fuzzy animalistic costume, or whatever the proper term would be, anthropomorphic sort of animal costume, could all fit into boring animal costume, which I guess we've eliminated that category somewhere along there. I guess we turned it just into boring. But
we just turned it into boring.
Execution makes the difference, because that's what the mascot is there to do. It's to fill that sort of getting people hype, entertainment, fill in the gaps role, and rally behind him. So if you got a mascot that is able to do that, that's a big thing.
For sure. Ty, I think we have him pretty solid as a solid. Who do you think, who are you diving into next? So the pool, I know it's kind of tiny. We have Bullet, which is OSU's live horse, Pistol Pete, Hook'em, which is the dressed up Texas mascot. We have Bevo, Nitro, UCF's mascot, the masked rider of Texas Tech, Shasta, the cougar from Houston, whatever the live Nitro is that rides on a horse that I didn't realize existed, whatever the name of the Cincinnati Bearcat is, and
Pegasus?
Boomer and Sooner, the Sooner Schooner. Yeah, Pegasus. Thank you. And then the Sooner Schooner.
I would like to go with. I will go with OSU's live mascot. I would like to do the pony.
All right, we're breaking
As the
out
next-
Bullet. As they say, here comes Bullet or whatever. I don't know. I feel bad for saying that. I hate it. All right, let's talk about
I
Bullet.
heard it in that voice. I heard it in the voice, and it made me take me back right to the last Bedlam in Stillwater, too.
So then we have two similar horses here between the Masked Rider and Bullet. Bullet's the worst one. Bullet kind of sucks, I think.
I agree with that. I think that they're both.
agree.
I think it's still fun. I still think it's fun, but I definitely like the Masked Rider a lot better. We can honestly just double up in this one and talk about them both.
I'm down for that. Yeah, Masked
Yeah,
Rider.
I think it's just good to. I think do one and then we'll just roll right
And we
into
can
the
just-
next one, maybe.
Yeah, so let's discuss Bullet here. What makes is Bullet all that cool? Just kind of a horse, has a flag. I don't know. I don't think. I think the presentation with Bullet is not all that great.
I did meet someone that is on like the Bullet, like kind of roughneck-esque kind of in terms of Oklahoma State's like handling team. And there's a lot of work that goes into that. And they have a whole like little crew and it's this whole like, initiation to get to be the Bullet rider, which I think is cool. But it's not, there's a lot of people that kind of do that similar thing. So, and obviously I think the Masked Rider as a mascot as a whole, as a visual representation is cooler. I could consider putting this one at meh.
I think it's a pretty solid meh here. What are we thinking, Ty?
So I think Bullet is very fitting for Oklahoma State, even down to just, I don't know what type of horse it is, but it's like a pony type horse. I mean, just look at the pictures, the difference between the Red Raider horse and Bullet. Like Bullet is just a very pony, you got a cowboy-ish person on there, but they look like they're on their way to compete. They look like they're actively commuting to some sort of equestrian competition, and they just picked up the OSU flag and ran through the game to get there, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think it's very, very fitting for Oklahoma State. That's the good part. The bad part is I can't shake the feeling from my mouth that it's just a worse executed version of what Texas Tech has, and it's just a significantly worse executed version because they try to utilize it sort of in the way that we utilize the Schooner and then live Boomer and Sooner. So I can't help but get the feeling that Bullet is in fact poverty tier.
Poverty. Ooh, a full-on poverty tier out of Bullet. What are you thinking, Blake?
I don't know. Like it's meh, I guess. Like I
Kinda
really
boring.
I do love live mascots, especially ones that run out onto the field. So it's like I can't put boring because I still always enjoy that like thrill of like there's one like big event that everybody's like kind of riding out, being happy. So I would go meh just because I think there's one better than it, and I can't go poverty just because I think like live mascot runouts are cool regardless
Agreed.
of like whatever
That's fair.
the thing that's coming out.
And it's not boring. The fans
It's
like
not boring
it.
either.
Yeah,
A live
like,
horse
it's-
running onto the field is never boring. You're right. That's not boring. We're we're kind of jaded as OU fans, I think.
There is a live, yeah. So even though I advocated for Bullet being poverty tier, I still think it is, but a poverty tier live mascot, I think, is already, almost solid on its own just by the nature of it being a live mascot and it's executed really well. So in spite of me being the harshest, I think, in calling it a poverty tier attempt at the Sooner Schooner because they couldn't afford a schooner or a second horse, I would not be opposed to solid either. I think I'm both the most negative and the most positive towards Bullet. So meh feels, I mean, I guess you could make a fair argument for meh. I'm biased towards actually liking it, even though it's
You
like
being between two different things, Ty, is like the definition of a meh. Like
That's
like,
true.
eh.
But it's not. But I feel very strongly on both sides. There's
I
no
think we
myth.
need a category for cool horse, and we need a category for less cool horse.
Or just our
We're not
whole
we're not
screen
going to
can be
do it
taken
because
We
over.
there are
can't
too
do
many
any more
categories.
categories.
Okay, but
we
think about like your favorite, just think about your favorite cheap light beer. I envision what your favorite cheap light beer is, and you have that first sip of just a perfectly cool, crisp, whatever your favorite cheap light beer is at the first tailgate of the year. That is solid, if not elite. It's a poverty tier beer that you're drinking out of a plastic cup in a parking lot somewhere, right? That is by definition, poverty tier. You're drinking a cheap beer in a solo cup in a parking lot somewhere. But it's also at the same time solid, if not elite. So that is my stance on Bullet. I'll let you guys decide where it goes, but no one would describe that scenario as meh, and that's how I feel about Bullet. Bullet's a cheap beer at a tailgate.
That's I think that's not a bad point. I think it's hard to not put Bullet at solid. What are we thinking?
No, because the Masked Rider, whatever, is not elite. Like
And
that's
it's solid,
you basically
yes,
set up that conversation, and that's just not
so,
true.
Yeah, let's
Masked
break down the
Rider is
Masked
solid.
Rider. It's cool. They have someone dressed up as like a little Zorro, which is always awesome. I'm a big fan of Zorro masks, as some people know. And no, I think Masked Rider is cool. I will say a little bit of irresponsible. One time, the Masked Rider and the horse that rode it, like it bucked the Masked Rider, and the horse was just kind of ran off and ran into a wall and died in front of the entire crowd. So not great there. Bit of points off for accidentally dying. But live mascots, weird stuff happens. Just ask Peruna of SMU. So
Yep. Solid. That's the only thing. The only good thing I'll say about Texas Tech. Solid.
yeah, we can call it solid. It's cool.
Ooh. The Masked
Tyler, what are
Rider.
you thinking?
The Masked Rider. This is an important thing to remember. The Masked Rider was the first, before USC, before Florida State, before anyone else, the first rider on a horse mascot at a football game. And it has been, according to what I was just skimming, Florida State specifically has directly attributed we can do this to seeing Tech doing it. I would argue that the Masked Rider is potentially elite tier in that it started because Masked Rider is a solid iteration of a horse riding mascot, because I would argue that USC and Florida State did it cooler, but the Masked Rider invented the entire category, which I do think is worth something.
We don't herald the Betamax for being an elite way to transport videos. It's VHS. It's iPod over Zune. Just because you do something first doesn't mean it is the better version of it. People can take your idea and make it better. You could give it a little bit of props from that, but it's not elite because it was the first.
I'll say
I
this,
guarantee you, there's some people in college football, like I said, these are casual fans. You would think like people that really pay attention to college football would know this. I think casual fan could look at that picture and not see anything Texas Tech and be like, I don't know what school that is. I could just guess a red and black school. They would have to think about it. And I just don't think that's elite.
I don't think it's elite because it's not overall recognized. I think Ty's argument for it is very good because it is a pioneer. And if you've ever seen that first running, it's awesome. Like,
yeah, but Florida State
that
does
intro
it
is
better.
electric.
Like that's
yeah,
the
Florida
thing.
State does do it better. I think it stays at a solid. That being said, I think it is. I think it's really solid.
I do want to say there's another note about the Masked Rider. It once ran over a referee to apparently a ton of cheers within the stadium. So how do you feel about referees in college football? That's arguably kind of elite tier as well. It's apparently also previously run over an opposing school's cheerleader as well. So,
okay, that's
this
great.
is just the most Tech conversation because all these cool things or weird things have happened, but nobody's heard of them. Just like Texas Tech and their results and success or anything, nobody outside this area really knows what they do because
Well,
they don't.
saying-
And also the coolest thing about Texas Tech is doing crimes, apparently. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's solid.
Cool.
It's solid. It's
Okay.
solid.
Solid
Solid horse. Solid horse. Solid horse. Okay. Next up, let's go with I think it's Jamison's turn. Let's see, Ty picked
Let's
Bullet,
just keep
right?
it with the horsies. Let's go over to Pegasus.
Pegasus. Yeah. Okay. So Pegasus is UCF's horse as well. They have a little kind of knight on top as well. It's just kind of a horse. What are we feeling about what are we feeling about this horse? Is this a cool horse?
I think kind of boring.
Nope.
I think it's boring. I think it's
Boring.
the three levels of these three, because whenever people think of the mascot for UCF, I think of that Golden Knight Nitro, looking guy that we're going to be talking about later. I don't think really of the horse live mascot. I think it's boring.
If we're talking about crappy mascots, UCF, or like not crappy mascots, but mascots that UCF ditched but should still have, they would have several on there. Citronaut, etc. Like they're a solid mascot school, but they left them all behind. Instead, we get this actually legitimately designed by Disney mascot, trying to do a medieval times thing. I don't know if I like it. I think it's kind of boring.
Bobby, you brought up an excellent point for those that are not aware of the history of UCF and where this mascot directly comes from. Is UCF used to have medieval times in Orlando at their games. They used to have a pregame and halftime show of medieval times. I'm talking like you would go to a UCF football game and the halftime show would be a medieval times jousting show on the field.
Oh, that's
that
so
is
cool.
That is
amazing.
awesome.
And then they couldn't afford it anymore, so they got this guy on a horse. It is by definition poverty here.
That is poverty. I actually agree with that.
It's
This is
literally
poverty horse.
it's literally. This is not even a
Poverty
bit. This
horse.
is just a coincidence that this came up. This is poverty tier medieval times because they couldn't afford to have actual medieval times come and do their thing anymore.
I
like
will
when-
say this. I really would like to just see Willie by himself on poverty.
Willie by himself in poverty flexing was really a great.
So I understand your argument, but I still think he's boring because I want to keep Willie by himself in poverty.
I'm sticking with Ty was perfect because he basically described the Michael Scott didn't want to buy a jazz band for 30 minutes, so he hired the bassist for 4 hours to play at the Christmas party. UCF couldn't afford medieval times, so they bought a single night and was just like, we can do years of this instead of a few years of just normal medieval times. So that is a poverty move by definition.
I
Fine.
think That
Fine. I wanted Willie all by himself.
Imagine the college football tradition of having medieval times to your halftime show every year. That's pretty great.
And then the next year, just this dressed up horse shows up, and you're like,
one dude in a Disney costume just trotting around.
Where's the rest?
Boring.
Where's the rest of you?
Where's the rest of you? All right, Blake, what's next?
Let's just knock it out while we're here. UCF Nitro. I gotta go. I think I was gonna go poverty, but I don't feel like putting two on the same level. I think just boring. Like Bobby kind of mentioned it, the Citronaut existed. There's a lot cooler other mascots they could have done by being a Florida school, and they just kind of chose Army already did it. And then when you think about, the Army did a version of the Knights, then you have the Vegas Golden Knights. There's just a lot of Knights out there, and I feel like they do it the worst. I don't feel like it's very iconic. I just feel like it's such a meh. It's below meh, but I think it's just boring at this point. There's nothing cool about it. Nothing ties it to the area. It's just boring.
It's not special. It, like you said, it's
Boring.
It's boring. It's just
It's the most generic mascot. It's so generic.
They had a Florida version of the Horned Frog, and they booted it. They kicked it into the sun, and they blew it up. So you can't. I think that's a pretty unforgivable thing. I think it's pretty solid boring. Ty, what do you think?
I missed my mute button. Sorry. Concur. Yeah, just boring.
Boring. We're moving on. All right, Nitro, put into boring. Ty, what should we roll with next? We do we want to do? Let's talk about Bevo. Let's talk about Bevo.
Yeah, I concur.
Big cow hanging out. Is he elite though?
Bevo's elite. I don't want to get into arguing for Bevo. Just so much brand recognition. He fits. The colors are based after him, presumably, because he fits the colors. Like you could not have a more perfect mascot. Say what you will about Bevo, but I think Bevo is the definition of an elite college football mascot.
Yeah, I know he doesn't do a lot because you obviously don't want a free running Longhorn around everywhere. He sleeps most of the time, but he's just so cool. Again, we don't want to stump for Bevo too much.
He's a big old boy too. He's big.
And that one year when he was a baby, it was kind of cute. Like that was kind of fun. We had his little tiny horns. That was a good year. I don't know. I'm pro Bevo. Obviously did try to kill Uga one time. Not ideal. But overall, cool mascot.
Some would argue that that's not a bad thing.
He was just trying to give him a boop. He was just trying to say hi. But no,
this is one of the easiest ones. Elite. It's
a layup for elite.
Not and then cool move into Hook'em after it though.
Yeah, let's talk about Hook'em because that guy sucks.
I think he does obviously have a lot of bad memories in OU's fans' head. I want Bobby to go off first. I want his obviously none of our opinions to skew his. I want to hear this.
Yeah, I think he's just kind of there. He's kind of useless. I get that you want to have a living, breathing, walking around mascot, but much like Boomer and Sooner, this is a definition of a crappy version of a live mascot. It's just there. I don't think you could. He is kind of boring. He is kind of just not great. But like you need to have that. You can't bring your children next to a giant several like 2-ton steer and take a picture with it. Things might get a little messy. So you have to have a guy dressed up as a little Bevo. I get where you're coming from, but he's a typical crappy version of a live mascot, I think.
I go back and forth on this. I think he's all right. Like I kind of like him, and maybe it's just because I'm used to him, but I like his little hat. The fact that he could go "milady." I do love the fact that he is one of only a few mascots that can do that. I think he's just meh, but like I wouldn't be offended if everybody went in that he was just a crappy version of a live mascot.
I think he's meh. I don't think that he is on the same tier of Boomer and Sooner of crappy version of a live mascot. Like ever since I remember whenever they started to get more and more popular, Boomer and Sooner, I was like, this is just weird. Like, I just don't like this. Like Hook'em makes sense, like, because he has to be that person. I truly didn't think OU needed it. It just felt weird, honestly, and forced.
Well, because we already had Top Dog in some sense, so. And I think that's the thing. I think that's one thing that puts Boomer and Sooner a little lower is they're getting in the way of Top Dog. They're taking from his shine for basketball. So, Ty, what are your thoughts on Hook'em?
Yeah, so I have no qualms with putting Bevo or Hook'em, I guess, the live version of Bevo. You make the argument, yeah, he is a crappy version of the live mascot. I think he 100% fits that category, but I don't think he should be in that category with the other 4 mascots, the 2 pairs that are down there now. He's not boring necessarily. He's certainly not poverty. He's not nightmare fuel, but
no.
Is he meh? I guess meh is a wide category because I think he's better than Top Dog. Might get, thrown out on an OU pod for saying that, but yeah, I don't know. I guess I could go with meh. I have more qualms with just looking back at the meh category. Bevo is, I'd say he's second, maybe third in the meh category, but yeah, I guess he fits in there if it's a wide category.
I think solid, you have to have some kind of redeeming quality to yourself. But I think he doesn't. But I don't think he's bad.
The only thing keeping him from being bad, and the thing that kind of flipped me on it, was Blake talking about his tiny little hat, which I think is hilarious.
Whoa, of
And
course.
I genuinely never noticed it until now. Like I knew he wore a hat, but looking at it, it's kind of funny. It's kind of cute. I don't know. I like Bevo. Let's move. Or I'm sorry, I like Hookem. Let's move Hookem to Matt. Hookem's a meh mascot. He's fine.
Yeah.
He's fine. He's okay there. So, all right, let's move on. I'm going to go in on one of these. So Shasta, the Houston mascot. This guy sucks. I know. I opened it up with Hookem last time. Of all the mascots here, he's the only one who we've seen in our lifetime get his ass beat at a football game when the duck walked over and hit him with a pile driver, hit him with the, like just some pure WWE moves. He got the duck suspended for being a little jerk. He tried to start shit, couldn't finish it. Shasta, this guy, dude sucks. Look at him down there. He's just a little timid cougar. He got beat up by a duck in a little sailor hat. No. That's poverty tier to me, I think. What?
I mean, everything about the University of Houston, I think you can make the argument.
Here it comes.
But I had no strong feelings towards this mascot. I still don't even know which one you're about to move because I don't know which one is Cincy's or which one is Houston's. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's a category that really fits him because he's not. What he has like eyeliner, I guess.
Yeah, he's got eyeliner on. What's going on here?
So for those listening, we're now
he has
showing
the Mac from Always Sunny look.
His cat eyes are in full effect.
Yeah, so we're showing the clip of the fight.
It gets worse. There it is. Oh yeah. See what I mean? You can't recover from that. You cannot recover from that in my eyes.
I'd like to point out the duck is on the Houston sideline doing this. The cougar is surrounded by the rest of the Houston pep team and everyone else that's over there on the Houston sideline, and no one is helping him. So that should tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah, his own cheerleaders aren't backing him up here. This guy's poverty tier.
The only case I'll give for another category is Shasta is an actual life mascot, and it's a pretty crappy version.
Mm-hmm.
And I do after I saw the eyeliner and the cat eyes, I kind of like it. It looks like the Nightman. Kind of like it. So I don't know where to put it because I don't know if that's just poverty because it kind of looks like Mac and Always Sunny. And Ty kind of mentioned it. Not a big fan of Houston. Or is it a crappy version of a live mascot? I'm going to go poverty. I'm just going to go poverty. I'm going to get it out. It's at least interesting enough to me, and Bobby has told a compelling enough story that it's poverty and not just kind of has no lure and just sitting in the crappy version of a live mascot, which just feel like characters that were invented out of the blue that really don't have much history, much tradition, much cool, a single cool thing about them. I think it doesn't sit in that category, so I say poverty as well.
If you type in something into Google as simple as Shasta, just you think oh, of course it would come up as a mascot. No, it's something even more poverty, some boring soda called Shasta. And I look at the picture and I'm like, oh, I recognize these. These are on the same level as was it Dr. Thunder and everything. This is poverty. You don't even see the Houston Cougars mascot whenever you type it in. You see the poor version of a soda.
It's a value price soft drink line with a variety of flavors. Yeah,
there we go. It's poverty.
Poverty all the way. So Shasta, hang it. Welcome to the Big 12. You're in the poverty tier. All right. Next up, let's go in with it. Pistol Pete.
Nightmare
what do we
Fuel.
Want to say about Nightmare Fuel?
There's no doubt about
all
it.
The
I
way.
hate him.
No, okay.
The way he jiggles his body and the way he does the little S whenever he does the little the little Egyptian dance, I hate it.
Yeah.
It just spooks me. And then he shows up at all these public events. I hate it so much. I don't like the way he moves his hat and his head and and the way he makes, I just don't like it at all.
The fact that his giant head is just a big plastic mold of a real person, it's creepy. It is the definition of just it is nightmare fuel. It's right in the middle of the uncanny valley. I hate it.
I will say, Pistol Pete is one of those that it's like, it's so nightmare fuel, it borderlines elite. Like, it is so memorable and weird, and, like, people are like, why is it, like, it's similar to Willy the Wildcat in the sense of, like, why is there a human body under this weird head? But it takes it to a whole new level, and, like, I think people outside of this area know who Pistol Pete is just because of its weirdness. We have to put in Nightmare Fuel just because nobody will be there if it's not him. But he is, like, I will say this, he is so Nightmare Fuel, he might be elite.
He's in that Purdue Pete category, you know what I mean?
Agreed. Him and Purdue Pete kind of are so scary, they're elite.
I agree with Blake. It's Nightmare Fuel does not have to be a negative thing. I mean, it's pure Nightmare Fuel, but I think if he was not Nightmare Fuel, he at a minimum would be in solid. And I think his brand, and then just sort of like that he executes the Nightmare Fuel role so well, you know, like if Pistol Pete was known for like being very like kindly or like, I don't know, like calm or something. I don't even know the right word on the sidelines, then it wouldn't be as good, but it's just perfectly executed. I think I would argue that he should be elite if it were not for this Nightmare Fuel category. So I did want to just clarify that Nightmare Fuel does not necessarily have to be bad. He's just in his own little category.
Well, like Wyoming's Pistol Pete would be, in my opinion, poverty, because this Pistol Pete is awesome, but he's also horrifying. And I think that kind of I agree. The Nightmare Fuel kind of Purdue Pete vibes with old Pistol Pete. I think that's like to be said, not a bad thing. He's kind of scary, and you want a little intimidation. But let's move on. Okay, Cincinnati's
Was Wyoming
Bearcat.
first though? Wasn't Wyoming first?
No, Pistol.
Am I
Oklahoma State
right?
had him first.
No, there was a
Oklahoma
big
State
lawsuit about this, and so now they all get the rights to Pistol Pete, but like I think New Mexico State has to pay like 25 cents or something to OSU like each year to like keep the licensing rights, and then Pistol Pete from Wyoming kind of just exists. It just has to like look a distinct way in order to not be like copyright infringement.
I will say
They both filed it at the same time. They both filed
Aren't
it
they, like,
at the
separate
same time, and this
directions
was
or
the resolution. And they like there's 3 schools that claim Pistol Pete.
And he actually has a really cool like history. Like his like the actual person behind Pistol Pete had a cool history. Frank Eaton. He witnessed his father's like murder at the age of 15, and then like went and tracked him down and killed them all. No, he tracked them down and like killed them all and shit. Like it was kind of wild, man. Like the father murder was bad, obviously, but I don't know, the little it's kind of like some Red Dead Redemption stuff. That part is kind of cool.
All I'm learning on this
like,
pod
this
is
is a
that
horse.
if your mascot commits crimes, we hold them in high regard, because that was the first thing that came to mind when the
That's
Mountain
adversity.
was
That's
illegally
adversity.
shooting a bear and a DUI, and then now murder. Those are what like makes your mascot elite.
Well, then I was talking about Mass Rider too.
Yes, any type of negative thing in your past can always be turned into a positive. You guys got to know these things. This is like common.
Like I said, Tiger Woods. That's why everybody loves Tiger Woods. It's because he's like kind of done all like the Queen's Gambit of like the worst things you could possibly do, but yet as a country we all root for him on a Sunday whenever he wears his red shirt.
Fair enough. All right, let's talk about, because I want to end on a cool one and not the Cincinnati Bearcat. Let's talk about the Cincinnati Bearcat. How did there's a reason why this guy hasn't been picked up, because he's boring as hell.
He is boring. He is boring as hell. But to just riff off of what Blake was just talking about, this is the only mascot in this group in the Big 12 that I'm aware of that has been arrested, literally, not as a bit, has been arrested.
Oh, that's extra points.
This was not joking around. The mascot, it was like a snowy game at Cincinnati, 2010. It started throwing snowballs at people maliciously. People started to complain. The mascot was asked not to, and it sort of jokingly didn't. And then it continued to maliciously throw snowballs and push people, at which point a police officer apparently came over and said, okay, haha, very funny. You specifically, person in the mascot costume, need to stop now because this is getting out of hand. At which point the mascot was like, okay, that's fine. Yeah, you're right. I was being a bit unreasonable. I should not have been maliciously throwing snowballs at people. And shortly afterwards, the mascot found the security guard that reported him to the police and assaulted him. And of course, the police had to come back and arrest the mascot. Funny enough, same year, the mascot won like mascot of the year, whoever holds that, ESPN or whatever else. So very famously, the only mascot to win, basically, I guess, the Fulmer Cup of mascots.
The double.
Being arrested on felony charges and also winning mascot of the year in the same year. So all that being said, but all of that being said, the award may have been like 2009, 2011, but if you look up Cincinnati mascot arrested, you will find the story that I've just told you to the best of my recollection.
Yeah, because the 2009 Cincinnati team was like the really good one, like the 12-1 one. And then the 2010 one, Butch Jones came in and absolutely turned it into a 4-8.
Yeah. But I do want to say it's like that classic, like, different treatment for different people. I think the Cincinnati mascot assaulting people, trashy, lame, hate it, right? Red Raider runs over a referee during the game. So cute, awesome, hilarious, just being him. Love that. Cincinnati mascot assaults someone during the game. Boo, poverty tier, classless, get out of here. So personally, I think the Cincinnati mascot doesn't even deserve a ranking on our list.
I don't know. Weirdly enough, I think you've convinced me to put him in solid now.
I'm a solid guy.
No,
snowball-related crimes are always funny.
No, because then
I did have him at solid.
They neutered him. They neutered him after that. That was over a decade ago. Now he does not assault anyone or do anything cool like that. So
solid.
We don't know.
Solid.
I like his red little eyebrows.
Yeah,
his little.
I kind of like the look of him and its unique eye and the story.
You think he's on the same level as BYU's mascot?
Kind of with that story, it's like the anti-BYU. It's like the BYU mascot would never do that.
Yeah, but that was one time, and then they got caught doing it. And instead of doing the cool thing of being like, "I loved it, I'll do it again," if you ever put me in that costume again, I'll do it again. They were like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again." You know, they apologized.
Solid.
Boring, lame. The Red Raider horse, that's also solid, never apologized after assaulting a referee. Okay,
I'll say this:
it is a crime. It is a crime to put the Bearcat in the same category as the Red River or the Red Raider.
Here's the thing about the Bearcat, though. We can't say he'll never do it again. He might just be biding his time. He's been waiting to get on the big stage. He's here now. He might commit some crimes involving snowballs again. They're about to play a lot of games in Provo. I don't know. He might start pelting Mormons with snowballs like the good old days. I don't think we can put it past him.
I think he's meh.
That's in limbo as a meh. If he's just saying, I don't know if I can throw snowballs.
He's not on the same level of. I feel like that's some history that's a little bit more than.
But he's not going to, right? Who's he gonna? He's not gonna throw snowballs at the Jayhawk out of respect. I'm just gonna go down the list. He's not gonna throw snowballs at the Mountaineer. The Mountaineer is open carrying a rifle. He's not gonna throw snowballs at Bevo. He's not gonna throw snowballs at the BYU. Well, he might try to throw snowballs at the BYU.
He definitely might.
The Red Raider, also open carrying and on a horse, will run him over. The other Red Raider is an open carry mascot. He's not going to be able to throw snowballs at TCU because TCU is going to refuse to go play in Ohio. He's never going to even see Top Dog. The Oklahoma State one presumably is concealed carrying. I hope he throws snowballs at Bevo. Like, he's not going to pull this stuff. The UCF ones have swords, right? He can assault some random security guard in Ohio. That's cool and all. He's not going to be able to pull that stuff over on the Big 12 mascots outside of maybe Shasta. Yeah.
He's going to beat the crap out of Shasta.
And that's about it. Or the Baylor Bears. The Baylor Bears would like apologize if they got assaulted by another mascot. I kind of get that vibe, but
that's fair. I think he's solid. We're gonna go with solid.
He's not solid.
I think I'm mad now. I think I'm mad now.
No, the fact that we've been talking about him so much makes me feel like he's solid.
No, the fact that we're split 50-50 on whether or not he's good or not is the definition of meh.
Make a new category, Bobby. Meh with lure.
He is meh until he commits crimes again, in which case he will be solid.
Okay. That's
so
fine.
If you're the Cincinnati
we'll
Bearcat
issue a retraction,
mascot,
right? Yeah, if the Bearcat
comes
out, if the Bearcat comes out and assaults someone week 0,
this can be changed. This absolutely can be changed. So, all right, let's finish it off. Boomer and Sooner, the Sooner Schooner. This is lead, right?
Let Blake go first.
Blake?
No, I do. This. I think it's elite. I think, it's my second favorite running on the field mascot. It's so cool. It's so unique. The wagon, the fact that even the haters showed the Sooner Schooner tipping over and everybody getting yeeted from it. It shows it's relevant. It's cool. I think OU should have just only stuck with that. The ponies are so tiny that kids can go around those. Those are the ones that they send to the petting zoos, to the children's birthdays parties. They're small. I like it. It's cool. It's elite. It's very much elite.
I will say, for the overall scale of college football, the memeability of it's only tipped over twice, but, first time kind of got a grainy gif out of it. That last time, I think college football as a whole, it was just a gift to them that will keep on giving forever, which sucks, but also, if I'm being unbiased, is kind of funny. Jamison, your thoughts?
I think obviously the Sooner Schooner in its history is elite, but let me say something. I've got some things that I've been very upset about it. I think they're playing some scared money with this, because ever since that crash, the Sooner Schooner has been so slow. They put the training key into it, and it takes them forever to do their loop. It takes so long. And what was so fun about it is because it was so fast. If it goes and falls down again, so be it. And we get more memes and more GIFs. But what was so fun, I love to see the little quick turn. Come on, just design it better. That's as simple as that. The slow little going out there, and it's a very slow corner. That's really upsetting.
What I'm mad they got rid of is the roughneck who would wait till the very last second to duck his head down.
Yes, and that too. They've just changed everything. Everything's safe. Everything's safe. They're hedging, and we don't like hedging on this podcast.
No
we
hedging.
Call it out.
It's either the coolest thing ever, or it's going to actually actively hurt OU. And that's the best thing about the Schooner. It's like playing a game of Russian roulette with your mascots, and that's pretty great. Ty, your thoughts on our namesake mascot?
Yeah, I think you can I think anyone that really sat down, I think if you fed all of the mascots into an AI with any sort of reasonable algorithm, you would be getting on every time you ran that program in all of college football, potentially in all of American sports, or I'll say all of American sports, because you start to get into wider recognition. But in all of American sports, I think you can make the argument that no matter how far you zoom this out, the Sooner Schooner should be, objectively, coming from a biased source, is elite tier. I mean, the Sooner Schooner is elite tier, all of American sports, all compared to all the NFL mascots, all the NBA, whatever else. So I think certainly it is elite, especially within the Big 12. But and I think Blake made a good point, and you guys made a good point with this. It's a college football cultural icon on its own. Like the fact that it has provided little, fodder for the haters as well, just speaks to how important it is as an icon. So
yeah, I think the bigger conversation is is the Scooter. It's the Sooner Schooner the best, live mascot in college football? I think there are some
No.
really solid ones. I think Ralphie probably takes that. Honestly, all
Yeah,
things
I
considered,
don't even know who Ralphie is.
the Colorado
Colorado
mascot.
mascot.
I thought they got rid
I-
of Ralphie.
No,
No,
they-
she's still
no,
running.
no, that's why. That's like 75% of the reason I went to TCU Boulder this year, just so I could see Ralphie run.
Are
I
you
think
saying
I
like
had
an
Ralphie at
entertaining,
one
an
on our last
entertaining
one.
live, an entertaining live mascot? Yes, I agree with that. But if you're talking about brand, I think Uga is really hard to beat.
Yeah, but you don't really
They're
see
not even
Uga do
they're not even
anything.
the best bulldog.
What is the best bulldog?
Oh man, don't
Like
we've got some
mascot,
friends that say
mascot and relevance.
my
No,
favorite-
I'm
my
not. I'm
favorite
not
of-
pandering to other people. Yale does the best mascot bulldog in college sports.
Fair
No,
enough.
if you're going by the actual look of the dog that I like the best,
It's not a
The
dog.
one I
it's
think
not
that
the
has the
look of
most-
the dog.
what do you mean? Just because Yale was the first, that's what you have to go by. Like
No,
Uga's
just
always a
because
big
he's
white mushy. Like I think Yale doesn't do the mushiness enough. Like it's a little too skinny, but kind of looks derpy. My favorite, like by far, Bulldogs is Butler Blue. I love Butler's like Bulldog right now. I think it's awesome. He looks
Okay, well
incredible.
you're proving the point though that
okay.
Georgia does not even do the best bulldog mascot.
It's just
So they
inbred
certainly
to
can't
hell,
be the best
man.
live mascot. The
Uga
mascot it refused to go to the national championship game.
It was because it would have probably died on a plane because it can't breathe. And it just
Someone could
have
that's my thing is it just sits on a giant
They
piece
have
of
a
ice.
mascot. Their mascot is so elitist that it refuses to use ground transportation. And you expect me to believe that that's
they could have done a lot of grand transportation with stopping at dog-friendly hotels, and they could have made it a 7-day trip because they had the time to. They had the time to. That's not Uga's
They had the
fault,
money.
though. That is whoever is. The money. Oh, that is
That's Uga's
definitely worth it.
They had the money.
that's Uga's
Yeah.
fault.
That's on Uga's owners, but that's a different topic for another day. Maybe we do a tier of like I don't know, an elite tier of mascot
Oh my
rankings.
God, that's gonna
down
be
the
a
line.
5-hour podcast.
This went an hour and 20 minutes. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it. But for those listening on the podcast, this is our final standings here. In the elite tier, or actually, let's go backwards. In the crappy version of live mascot tier, we have OU's Boomer and Sooner and Bruiser and Marigold or whatever. Nightmare tier. Nightmare Fuel is Pistol Pete because, of course. Poverty tier is Willie the Wildcat at Kansas State. Pegasus of UCF and Shasta of Houston, who got completely humiliated by a duck. Boring is Cy the Cyclone of Iowa State and Nitro of UCF. Meh, Raider Red of Texas Tech. TCU's Super Frog. OU's good old Top Dog. Also mentioned in this tier is Bullet from Oklahoma State, Hookem from Texas, and we never actually said the name of Cincinnati's Bearcat. He might just be the Bearcat.
I think it's
Bear.
just a bear.
Is it?
Bear. Okay, that's so lame. Okay, I'm glad we put him in men instead of solid. In solid, we have Cosmo, the Cougar from BYU, and the Masked Raider, the live mascot from Texas Tech. And then the elite tier, it is Big J, the Jayhawk, the Mountaineer, Bevo, and the Sooner Schooner, which is typical of the Schooner pod. All right, guys, that's all we got. I'm not even going to outro this one. We went a whole hour and 20 minutes here. But if you like these shows, if you think it's interesting, make sure to leave a comment below. If you think we're totally wrong on something, also comment. I would love to hear what y'all have to think. If we got any of these tiers incorrect, love it. Would love to embrace debate, see what y'all got to say on this. But for me, Jamison, Ty, and Boatin Blake, this has been the Schooner Pod. Thank y'all so much for listening. We'll see you next time. Have a good one out there.